I don't really know where we go from here. It has been outwardly obvious for some time that Project Baxter was stalling and at best doomed to a delayed release, but the actual news of its cancellation is damning. Not just of Starbreeze's ability to actually design and develop viable video game products, but also their total inability to make the correct long-term financial decisions at every twist and turn. We are effectively back to square one here. 2019 Payday, back when, since heartbreakingly lost to us, former CEO Mikhail Nermark stepped in and functionally reset the Payday franchise, reloading the Payday 2 content train to fund the conception of Payday 3. After years of speculative investments in VR tech, a game engine that never was, and burning themselves on licensed titles, they were dragged back from the brink of insolvency after a painful period of restructuring. Somehow, this is where we are again. After doing the bare minimum to support Payday 3's rocky start to life, all their eggs were placed in the diversification basket, spending an ungodly amount of man-hours and cash on third-party publishing endeavours, another directionless licensed title which would need to cannibalise market space for any chance to succeed, and a work-for-hire scheme effectively porting elements of Payday 3 into PUBG. Definition of insanity and all that, as here we stand at the start of October 2025. It has taken Adolf Christiansen and his newly installed leadership team a matter of months to realise that at least two of those endeavours were doomed to fail, stepping back on third-party publishing and cancelling Project Baxter in favour of winding back the clock to 2019, a cross-Starbreeze Payday focus. Sadly, as much as this is the order of operations I've been calling for 3 years at this point, the fact that it has taken this long means it's also coming at the cost of everyone churned up by Starbreeze's constant thirst for more. Many were hired to the firm for Project Baxter alone. Today, 44 employees have lost their jobs, and I want to be really mindful of that when discussing anything related to Payday 3 from here on in. It's crucial context that we should never forget, even if Payday 3 somehow winds back the clock and turns into a Payday 2 level success in years to come. This is the cost of bad business, inept leadership, and greed. That's without even getting into the 25 million plus impairment on the intangible asset that was Baxter prior to being scrapped. I'm not necessarily blaming AK for making this call. In my view, it was likely the correct one, and in an ideal world, all 44 FTEs would be rehoused within the Payday team if they wish to be. But I am left with a slightly sour taste in my mouth when this is how he described the game just over a month ago when asked on an investor-focused video.
I'm super excited about the latest things I've seen from the team. We have now, I believe, 2 playtests a week, so the team is getting a lot of feedback. And we are going to expand the player testing, both externally and internally.
Regardless, I've said my piece. Let's move on to what this means for Payday 3. As we understand from 2 follow-up press releases from Starbreeze, this is all in aid of sharpening their focus towards the Payday franchise. This will be centered around 3 pillars: the core IP, including Payday 2, 3, and whatever they intend to do next with the franchise game-wise. Heisting experiences, which sound hilarious on paper, but are effectively new merchandising and marketing possibilities, likely to manifest as either live-action or visual novel-style products. And work for hire, which I suppose is something they intend to continue with further, but more specifically relates to the profitable work they've done on the Payday PUBG mode. Whilst it wasn't their intention to launch this massive paradigm shift with a celebratory livestream, the news was unfortunately timed alongside the long-planned anniversary stream hosted by Liz introducing Jonas Skans, Payday's new general manager. It's obviously been rumoured this would be where the long-awaited Year 3 roadmap would be announced, but instead it was a much more informal PowerPoint-style presentation touching on the core issues they've identified for Payday 3 they intend to work on in broad terms, rather than sharing specific plans of attack and dates. To be frank, I was getting Operation Medit Bag deja vu the entire time. It's clear they see the game's many issues, I just don't know if I believe they have a plan to actually fix them. Speaking on point 1, playing Payday feels fantastic and rewarding, which is just hilariously phrased. This is probably the hardest of their intentions to pin down. It's supposed to relate to the core game feel, but seems to also encompass everything from accessibility, the status of offline mode, all the way up to sweeping gameplay changes. Quietly, I believe the removal of the need for a mandatory Nebula account is one of the most impactful changes they could have ever made for player numbers. It's still a massive win for them to do this now, as Jonas suggests, better late than never, but I do feel they've missed the boat slightly on offering this possibility during either the Xbox Game Pass or PS Plus periods, when so many were undoubtedly turned away. Of course, this felt like a minuscule win when it followed on from the news that offline mode is no longer on the table, as Almir might say, and is, for all intents and purposes, cancelled whilst the game remains in active development. I've had to massively paraphrase this section because I really do feel that Jonas lacked clarity in explaining the plan and reasoning behind it. As I understand it, a true offline mode for Payday 3 would require them to entirely redevelop their inventory system, including moving all that information from external servers to the individual clients. This is not feasible for them financially or in terms of manpower, and certainly not whilst trying to overhaul the game as they intend to. This we basically all knew before the stream, but it is important to hear straight from the horse's mouth, if just to put the question to bed and communicate to players awaiting this feature that it simply isn't going to happen. The problem is, the way it was fronted was much harder to follow than that. Jonas explained that they need the game to be online so they can deploy more frequent live service content releases via the backend, reliant on the game remaining on separate servers. That then begs the question, once they stop updating the game, what's stopping them from making it accessible offline? Which sort of retains that glimmer of hope for some. Personally, I'd say anyone awaiting this feature to purchase the game should plan around it never happening. However, I'd be incredibly surprised if when they shut it down, they don't eventually implement an end-of-life system to support offline play. On a lighter note, the potential of a peer-to-peer option that we've seen tested in the past is one of the few bright spots across the presentation. Not having to wait an egregious amount of time for an online heist would be a breath of fresh air, and somewhat future-proof the multiplayer experience beyond that fixed lifespan. I just love a way to play the game without the terrible hitching that seems to take place at least once per heist. There was also mention of simplifying the onboarding process, especially for new players. This is something they've been caught up with since their analytics indicated a drastic drop-off of player retention early into the experience. They've tried to address this directly via the smash and grab game mode, which sort of did its job, but there's clearly some other barrier to sticking with the game they're looking to knock down. For my part, I think this problem is more intrinsic to the game than they realise. With effectively no online content ecosystem, something that's crucial in carrying the digital footprint of most franchises these days, as well as very limited optimistic chatter around Payday 3, the barrier to giving up on the game is very low, meaning any minor nuisance can easily turn into a quit moment. If they can fix the overarching content flow and begin to repair its reputation, I'm willing to bet players will be a whole lot less likely to bounce straight off the game. Other more tangible ways Jonas claims they go about it is in streamlining the heist flow and avoiding fewer objectives that feel like chores. This doesn't necessarily seem like the rework of launch heist objectives we've been requesting, but I'm all for cutting down busy work in heists. There's just a slightly delicate balance to consider when adjusting this properly. Based on his description of the task he felt was boring, I wonder if he was playing Fear and Greed, a heist that requires you to repeat the same objective 3 times in quick succession, and also happens to be one of the best heists in the entire game. The trade floor co-panel objectives are pivotal in funneling you into the toughest and most compelling gameplay sections of the heist in loud, and so I think you need a deeper understanding of what constitutes repeat busy work and what is essential for maintaining the flow of the heist before you start messing with anything. If you meant the circles on 99 boxes though, I'm all for it. The next topic was on the sizable investments into the technology of the game that are taking place, including what is likely to manifest in the previously shelved Unreal Engine 5 upgrade discussed at the launch of the game. This isn't actually a massive surprise, especially bearing in mind Baxter, the game they've just canned, was being developed in UE5. The party line here is related to something I've mentioned previously. This change should, strangely, open the door to more heavy heist randomization mechanics. This is linked to the baked lighting they've developed for the game in UE4, making architectural randomization effectively impossible as the lighting won't dynamically react to changing play spaces. It's for this reason that we've never even seen something as basic as the Vault RNG from Payday 2's Branch Bank heist replicated in Payday 3. So this should be a good change in theory. However, there are valid concerns when it comes to the game's stability and performance when crossing over to the notoriously problematic UE5. Outside of the violent server stutters we've grown accustomed to, Payday 3 runs fairly well at the moment, and I'd hate to see that jeopardized. What I can get behind technologically though is a movement towards having as many systems controlled in the backend as possible. Right now, for example, one of the few things you'll see them change in the backend relates to game economy factors. They actually did this a couple of years back, adjusting preset weapon C-stack costs without needing to update the game. The more they can add and adjust in this fashion, the easier it will be for them to offer those live service trimmings we've been expecting, making actual events a viable option in the future. I'm not sure it's worth sacrificing offline for, but here we are, this is the line they've chosen to follow. Jonas also made reference to building out the progression system, developing achievements further, and overall giving us more reasons to play. These all go hand in hand with the sorts of honest retention-driving strategies Payday 2 relied upon that keep players interested to this day, and are exactly what we've been asking for since day one in Payday 3. It's nothing but words on a stream at the moment, easy buzzwords to keep us on tenterhooks, but at least a sign that they see the gaps in what the game is currently offering. Speaking of words that don't necessarily hold a lot of weight anymore, the goal being to turn Payday 3 into the ultimate heisting experience is as vacuous as it has ever been. We've heard it all before, it's meaningless without strong action backing it up. Still, if step one of that is getting back to a 4 to 6 week update cadence as suggested on stream, I suppose I can get behind it in principle. Hell, he even referred to a return to major annual updates, surely a throwback to the old Crime Fest events Overkill used to host, and wants to see that tied into developing game mechanics and new narratives. I've made it very clear how let down by Payday 3's narrative I've felt, especially post-launch, just note my lack of video covering it so far, so let's see if there's any bite to the bark this time around. The final message of what was a much more truncated stream than anticipated, as they blew through their talking points in less than 30 minutes, is that they intend to partner more with the community moving forward. They plan to do this via the Payday Insiders platform, an opportunity for you to provide feedback on the game through the email shown on screen, with the reward being the chance to playtest upcoming content and potentially visit the office in the future. Increasing the flow of playtesters is important and is something I can absolutely get behind. The actual concept of Payday Insiders feels a little formless at this point though, with all the potential rewards for participating very much up in the air. I'm all for submitting your feedback, but have no idea if they'll actually be able to commit to involving the community more in the development process. Now, if you felt like that was a bit underwhelming and lacked actual substance, don't worry, you're in the exact same boat as me. I understand the idea of over-celebrating Payday 3 and sharing a bombastic roadmap might have been in poor taste today of all days, but what I'm not sure they've fully considered is that this felt like a return to the status quo under Matt's 12 months ago. A lot of nice words on paper, but zero apparent follow-through. This wasn't the triumphant list of promises of a team that's just doubled in size. It was a harsh blow in the confirmation of offline mode being truly put to bed as a possibility, cushioned by optimistic ideas. Oh, and the Mask Mania mass. But these feel like meager compensation when they're not even accompanied by the hardcore challenges they were held back in order to implement over a year on from a fundamentally flawed event in the first place. Someone just ticked a box on the back end, which I suppose is at least an example of the sort of instant access content Jonas referred to earlier. It's a damp squib of an ending to an anniversary event that has been all over the place. Skills 2.0 in their entirety felt like a great start. The sales and Payday 2 subscription have been a gut punch, but at least they made me feel something. Today's livestream has honestly just left me feeling a little bit numb. As I said in the comments of a recent video, I'm neither in the we're so back or it's so over phase of existence. I'm simply tired of it all. Year 3 for Payday 3 could be fantastic. It's clearly a priority like never before, and that's more of a sad indictment of the 2 years in between than it is a cause for celebration. My recommendation is to take it as it comes. We're teetering on a knife's edge here. Starbreeze's publicly traded stock price just hit a new all-time low at 0.15 SEK per share, indicative of a lack of trust in a games company that doesn't seem to be able to release games, let alone successful ones. That in mind, you're better off remaining as neutral as possible and simply hoping for the best. Just about anything could happen from here. Regardless, I'll keep chipping away at the fun video ideas I have on my plate, and hopefully you'll join me for them. Take care, I'll see you all very soon, surely bearing some better news. A huge thank you to my dedicated Patreon backers. If you want to join this crew in going infamous, check out the link below and pledge as little as $2 to see your name in the credits, or get 24-hour early access to future videos and vote on upcoming content. Take care, I'll see you all soon.